Welcome, everyone, to Northwest Digital News, our Thursday health and wellness show with Jody Summers out of Northern California. You said you got some rain down there, so your weather is actually patterning ours a little bit here in the Pacific Northwest.
We were so thankful for rain because it's, California's pretty dry. So just bring it on, send it down.
Bring it on. All right. So we're going to talk about cold and flu season and remembering not to hang out with all of your sick friends this year or the season and staying as well as possible. Let's jump right into it. How does somebody stay away from all this flu and sickness and cold and all that kind of good stuff?
So all around this time, we're hearing all of the, kind of marketing for the cold and flu season. And there are things that we can do to protect ourselves. And so, we're going to talk a little bit about the flu shot. But before we do that, there are things that we can do today if you get the flu shot or you don't want the flu shot. And especially because it's only, I think last year was only 20% effective, and this year they're expecting 40%. So, I mean, if you've got 20% on a test exam at school, it would be considered a failure. Even 40% would be considered a failure. So no matter whether you get the flu shot or not, all of these things can be helpful. Again, whether you're getting that vaccine or not. So
do you have any idea how they measure that, Jody? Like when they talk about 20% effectiveness, do you have any idea how they measure it?
The interesting thing is right before the show, I went on to see the effectiveness of the approximated effectiveness because they don't know yet. And I thought exactly the same thing. How would they know? Because either they get the strain right or they don't. So if they don't get the strain right, then how can they say it's effective? Like my common sense says, if the strain was wrong for the flu that's going around, then it's not effective at all. But that's beyond my scope, but I have no idea.
Okay, all right, we won't digress into that. I was just curious if you do, because it's always amuses me when people make statements, and it doesn't matter if it's the CDC or who it is. When somebody makes a statement, I'm always curious, like, what did you base this off of? And when somebody admits to a 20% rate, it always leads me to believe that, well, if I was like measuring the statistic, and you think of somebody who's trying to promote that particular product, if they're going to say it's 20%, well, I'm going, what's the possibility the number is actually 5 or 10%? I don't know.
Especially if they say they didn't get the strain right. Well, wouldn't it be 0? It would be 0 if the strain is wrong.
That's correct.
But here's the other part that I hear is that, oh, well, I got it, and even though it's not the right strain, if I get the flu, it's going to be less severe. I did look this up a while ago. There is absolutely no scientific evidence that I can find, and if somebody has it, I'd love to see it, that shows from a double-blinded study that if somebody gets the flu shot, but it's still not good, they got the wrong virus or whatever, and then somebody gets a flu, that flu is less severe than if they didn't have the flu. There's no way to do a double-blind study with that. Like, we don't know. And so we hear that that's the truth, but it may not be the truth. So since we're on the flu shot, do we want to talk about the flu vaccine insert?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
And then we'll go. Okay, since we're talking about that, it wasn't the way we were going to go through this, but you never know on this show.
Kevin asks questions and gets you off on the wrong track and whatever. So yeah, let's talk about the flu shot.
Okay, so again, before our show today, I went on and actually downloaded the 2018-2019 flu vaccine package insert because I just wanted to read it, all 57 pages. I have nothing else to do. So on the first page, I did not print all 57 pages, but I did print 2 that people might be interested in. On the very first page, it says, safety and effectiveness, and it's a real long name this year. So it says, whatever, the flu shot. Okay. You can download it yourself if you want to see it. Safety and effectiveness of this flu shot have not been established in pregnant women or children under the age of 6 months. Now, pregnant women is on here on their own insert, and yet pregnant women are being encouraged to get the flu shot. But it says it's not, safety's not been established. So pregnant mommies will want to know that. On page 5, we talked about this a little last week about autoimmune illnesses, symptoms, and diseases, and how vaccines can spur an immune response, causing, it's just one more thing that can add to a flare-up or possibly additional symptoms. And on page 5, let me read you this sentence. It says, this long name of this flu vaccine is administered to immune-compromised persons, including those receiving immune suppressant therapy. The expected, here's the key, the expected immune response may not be obtained. Okay, so if it's not being obtained, they expect an immune response, and yet people who have overactive immune systems, don't they want to keep their immune response reduced?
Now, for clarity, we've had conversation about autoimmune diseases, of which I think there were, can't even remember, 100 some on the list?
170 something, I think, something like that, yeah.
170 some on the list. So the chances, it's interesting is, just recently we had across the river from us, one of the neighboring cities had a big major event, like an end of summer event. And I met somebody there who was running a little coffee shop. She just goes around and does this for these events, and it's, she's a stay-at-home mom otherwise. And she was sharing with me, which she didn't go into the specifics of, but she just was sharing with me that because somewhere along the line she got to know, maybe she follows a show or whatever, but she mentioned to me that about arthritis, and she said that she has an autoimmune disease as well. And so we just kind of conversing about that. And during the course of the day, I'm visiting with other people, and more people have been following these shows and seeing them. And I was just kind of, I think I ended up having 4 conversations with 4 different people about autoimmune. I'm going, wow, there's 170 of them. How many people actually have them? And when you mentioned that the flu shot has an expected autoimmune response, or immune response, rather, I guess is the proper word. Immune responses to me mean pain, inflammation, and a lot of discomfort. That's what they mean to me with rheumatoid arthritis. So what is that autoimmune response expected to be for other people with the flu shot? I'm just curious your take on that.
I think for people who don't have any symptoms, don't have a diagnosed autoimmune disease, probably can take the flu shot. I mean, I'm not saying to get it. I'm just saying if they got it, and probably be fine. Like your body would, address it, and a few days later you'd be fine. And that is a lot of people. However, you don't know, everybody's so bio-individual that people who do have exaggerated immune responses, would you want to bring in something that is going to cause an immune response? It's just a thought. I would be very careful if I don't have any autoimmune issues, but I would certainly take that into consideration if I did.
All right, so let's talk about some of the natural solutions, things people can do to deal with the cold and flu season we have. Absolutely.
So some of the things that our moms did, our moms and grandmas and great grandmas were very wise. And that is, resting and sleeping. So for one, if and you talked about this at the beginning, if someone's sick at your office, or somebody is sick or whatever, don't invite them to your house. Don't go to their house. Stay away from sick people. Okay, so that's a given. Okay. If you feel like you're getting something, vitamin C is a really good one. Now, vitamin C burns through your body super, super fast. It's a water-soluble vitamin, and your body just eats it up when it's sick. It's one of those, when I talk about the nutritional tanks, vitamin C goes really low, really fast. So one of the recommendations is to take vitamin C several times during the day. So 3 to 4 times a day. The other thing that actually burns through vitamin C is heat. Vitamin C is not heat. It's killed in heat. So if you have a fever, your you're going to burn through more vitamin C than if you don't. You know, again, so, you know, people who, like, for example, you hear orange juice has so much vitamin C, but if it's pasteurized, what they've done is raise the heat in the orange juice. And so it doesn't have as much vitamin C as like an orange, for example. Mm-hmm. Okay, vitamin D3 is another immune support, and that is a fat-soluble vitamin. It's actually a hormone, but it's fat-soluble. Your body doesn't burn through it quite so fast. So that would be like 1 time a day. And always D3 with fat, because it's again fat-soluble. So, but again, that's a really good way to something good to consider. Zinc. You can get over-the-counter zinc supplementation, maybe morning and night. Oregano oil is very good antiviral, antibacterial. However, oregano oil is extremely powerful and should never, ever, ever be used with frail people or babies, you know, little children. Their bodies they're just not strong enough. So if somebody, and when I say frail, I don't like to use the word elderly. Some people who are elderly are very strong, and some people are not, but like people who are frail. Essential oils would be another good one. Some of them would be clove, peppermint, frankincense. But again, no babies for clove, no frail people if you're going to use clove. Always use safety first with essential oils. I'm taking an essential oil course to be a certified aromatherapist, and I see so many people using them in a not safe way that it can actually do more damage than it can do good. All right, so probiotics. We're big fan of probiotics. Spore-based probiotics is where your microbiome is. That's where the 70 to 85% of your immune system is located in your microbiome and your gut. And so when you're fighting colds and flu, you want to make sure that your immune system is supported. And so a good spore-based probiotic is really important. If I feel like I'm getting something, or even if I'm going to go travel where I'm exposed to more, I do increase my probiotics before I go. So, okay, this one is my favorite, and I'm so glad we got to it. So fire cider. Have you guys ever heard of fire cider?
No, actually I haven't.
I've never heard of it.
But it sounds, you know what, so I have to share this with you. This probably has absolutely nothing to do with what you're talking about, but I have taken apple cider vinegar because, you know, I like to use that regularly. I'll use sometimes a little bit of my colloidal mineral in it as well, because that's like from fulvic acid, and I'll put a pinch or 2 of cayenne pepper in there. That comes out like a fire cider. So, but like I said, probably not at all what you're talking about, but that's my version of a fire cider.
It's very similar. It's
really?
Actually very similar. Yep. So I'm going to give you a recipe. I just made this up, and it's kind of fun. If people want the recipe, you can email me at Jody, Jody, at healthkindness, all one word.com. And I'll just email you. It's not even up on my website yet. It will be, but I'll email you the recipe and then different ways to make it. And so what it is in a nutshell is you get a big quart mason jar, and then chop up onions and garlic and turmeric, ginger. If you want jalapeno peppers, a mineral supplementation, like you said, Kevin, would be an amazing choice. Lemon, orange, all of those things. And so you have that then, and it's stacked. Let's say your row of onion, your row of garlic, you know, you've got it all chopped up, which this one's already made. Obviously, I need to make another one for this year, but so it's all chopped up. And then you put the raw apple cider vinegar with the mother. So, you know, Bragg's is a good one. There's ones at Whole Foods, all the way to the top. And then store it for 30 to 60 days. And it completely kind of saturates that and really infuses the apple cider vinegar. And then you strain it and take a shot either in water or straight if you feel you're not, you know, feel like you're getting something. It's also really good for the digestion, even in the morning. Some people take it every day. I don't take it every day. It's not one of my favorites, but I always have it if I feel like I'm getting sick. So if anybody wants that recipe, feel free to email me and I'll send it out.
I hope my wife Stephanie is listening. If not, we will definitely be getting in touch because I'd love to have that recipe. It sounds awesome.
Yep.
So from the start point, it takes about 30, 60 days to end up with a finished product.
Yeah, 30 days is plenty generally. Sometimes I'll leave it in there a little longer, but especially as the months are, we're getting into that season, 30 days will be fine. So the sooner you can start it, the better. I know some people who will make a batch every month and just always has one running. You want to just keep it in a cool, dark place, like your pantry is fine. And it's very acidic, and so it can actually kill bacteria.
My wife has taken to making apple cider vinegar, and one of the cupboards in our kitchen has she told me she was making it, and so one day I opened this cupboard that's over on the left side of the kitchen, and I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 25 of these big tall glass jars of apple cider vinegar in the cupboard. I was like, wow. We're going to be drinking a lot of this stuff, aren't we? She's like, yep. And she's also...
I love it. So I've never made apple cider vinegar. She's my hero.
Well, she's also been making homemade kombucha. And so it's very... Did I say that right? Kombucha? She always fixes me when I pronounce it. So apparently I got it right this time. But anyway, so that's another one. She has really she was a big believer in digestive health before, but listening to you and following you on this show, she has just really ramped up her commitment to digestive health, and it's paid huge benefits for me as well in our household. So thanks, Jody, for all of that. We have a question from a viewer. Renee asks, how important is the flu shot for diabetics?
I'm going to start by saying, okay, and is this type 1 or type 2? Just curious if you can ask her, because they're very, very, very different. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease. Type 2 is generally it's not an autoimmune.
So for type 1, if it's already said in the documents that flu shot creates a autoimmune response or immune response, am I on the right track saying maybe that's not such a great idea for type 1?
I want to start by saying, I'm not making a recommendation. I'm not a doctor, and you need to ask. That said, we just looked at the actual package insert that said it spurs an immune response. So for people who are type 1, who have an autoimmune type diabetic disease, is that a good choice for you? It's a choice that you have to make. Type 2 is very different. That means your body actually makes too much insulin, and it doesn't get into the cells, but that's not our conversation for today. Type 1, your body doesn't make enough insulin. Type 2, your body made too much. And it is not an autoimmune issue. And I don't know that would make any difference, whether, it shouldn't matter. Your immune system really isn't better or worse with type 2 diabetes. Again, if it's 20% effective, you're still 80% open, and these things would still apply.
And yes, it was type 1.
Yes, it is type 1 that Renee is responding with.
So again, Renee, you might want to go, if you go to just Google 2000, I think I Googled 2018, 2019 flu vaccine package insert. And that line was on page 5. I printed it out, and it's it's kind of at the top. So again, something you might want to read.
All right, Kyle is searching for that, so we can pop that up on the stream for everybody. Anything else that you want to share relative to cold and flu season? Something you said in the beginning, that moms and grandmas had this right as it pertains to vitamin C. I used to think sometime, when I was a kid and you might be under the weather, and here's mom shoving vitamin C in our mouths. I was like, Mom, is 1,500 milligrams too much? And then again, it'd be later in the day, and then again later in the day. I think by the time the day was up, on a day that I might be sick, I probably had 4,000, 4,500 milligrams of vitamin C. But I can tell you that I never, ever remember our household ever. I mean, we'd have the cold and flu, obviously, once in a while. But
Sure.
I never remember it happening or taking place, or the house being sick for anything more than 24 hours.
I'm a lot like you. When my kids, I was a pretty healthy kid as well, but even when my children were little, my children never got the flu. Of course, we all had colds on, on occasion, but not extensive, nothing bad. I don't ever recall my children like throwing up with the flu or having that aches and pains flu ever. But when they said they weren't, and I didn't know then what I know now to the details, but I did give them vitamin C. I did give them things that at the time, some elderberry syrup, that's another good option. Another option is that I do when the moment, when you feel, you guys know this feeling. I don't even know how to describe it. Your throat gets really dry and you're getting a sore throat. Like you can feel it coming, but it's hard to describe. It's like dry or annoyed or whatever. I purchase colloidal silver and then I put it in a spray bottle and I just spray the back of my throat. Again, it's an antiviral, and I also bring colloidal silver in a spray bottle when I travel. I use it on my hands. I actually put a few essential oils in my bottle of colloidal silver and use it as when I'm in hotel rooms and things as well. Again, just for an extra protection. So the last thing I want to say is if you do get sick, all of those things, water, water, water. Your temperature is high. You need to hydrate. Remember that your body heals and restores when it's resting. And so when you're tired, you need to sleep because that's when you get better. So all of the above, plenty of hydration and plenty of rest.
Okay, so I want to throw something, a little curveball at you that you're maybe not expecting here. But there's this has to do with a flu shot. I have had one in my lifetime. I can tell you exactly what year it was. It was 1997. It was the only time I had a flu shot because the company that I was working with was giving out free flu shots. And I got talked into it, but you might as well do it, Kevin. Come on, quit being a wimp. Are you just scared of the needle or what's your problem? So I decided to have the flu shot. About a week later, the only time in my entire work career that I missed 3 days of work. I have never, ever been that sick in my life. And the interesting thing is that when I contacted the hospital later and asked them, I says, hey, is this a complication of the flu shot? They said, absolutely not. But if you know me, and I have visited with enough doctors and physicians over the years and got to know a lot of them, I started making a few phone calls and they're like, let's see, well, how long was it after the flu shot? And I said, about a week. And they said, yeah, that's about the incubation period. And they said there's no question in their mind whatsoever that I was ill from what they injected me from. I'm curious if you've ever had this experience before, if you know of any others that have had a similar type reaction to a flu shot.
Okay, well, I'll start by saying I've never had a flu shot. And I never will by choice. So I have never experienced that. But I don't believe that you can actually, like from the flu, from the vaccine that's in the flu, let's say it's vaccine A, whatever, I'm just making this up, okay? I don't think you can get vaccine A from the flu shot. Like you cannot get that strain. And that's exactly what you hear. You can't get that strain, which you can't. That doesn't mean that the other 15,000 other strains that are out there, you don't get those. And there is some evidence, and I don't have it handy, but I was just looking at it last month. I just remember that there is some that you can get sick outside of that strain. So that's why people, when you hear a lot of people say, I got the flu shot and I got the flu, and then the doctors come back and say, no, you didn't get the flu, they're both right. They are both right. They didn't get that strain of the flu, but they got sick because of the flu shot. So the person is right, but also the actual wording is correct. But what they didn't tell is the whole truth, and that is you can get other illnesses because of the different ways that your body responds to that ejaculation.
Interesting.
Now, I don't have those information handy, and I don't even know where it is off the top of my head. But if you want, I can send you some studies that kind of really, they're very interesting about this exact same topic.
Well, Jody, you should be a politician because I asked you a very tough question and one that could have potentially painted you into a corner, and you escaped that very professionally. So that was awesome. Well done.
That's not right. I'm not going into that field.
Yes. Okay. I'm just kidding. Well, thanks, Jody, for your time today to share with us how to combat the cold and flu season, which is upon us. When I mentioned that episode of me being sick in 1997, I can tell you the previous time I had flu was 1986. Those are the two times that I remember in my lifetime having a flu or a sickness but the 1986 episode wasn't anything like that. I had spent probably 2 days traveling on like 3-4 hours of sleep during the night. And on the third day, when I got to where I was going, I spent that third day feeling very much under the weather. But that was 1986. And 1997, I have the most severe flu of my life for a week after a flu shot. It was kind of strange, but I've not done one since. And anybody that knows me has, you don't ever see me putting posts up about being sick and having the flu, because I'll get these colds and sniffles like anybody else, but I don't know what it is. What has prevented me from getting the flu? I don't know. So anyway, well, appreciate all the conversation around some of the remedies and things you can do to stay well in the cold and flu season. And for those of you in our visiting audience, if you have sick people out there, don't run over to their house with tea. You'll deliver tea, they'll deliver the flu to you, and you'll spend the rest of your week feeling sick. Don't do that. All right. Thanks, Jody, for joining us, as always, here on Northwest Digital News for the benefit of our viewers. I'm Kevin Hunter. This is Kyle Torgerson across the way from me. Jody Summers joined us out of Northern California. Thanks, Jody, as always. And thanks to everybody who joined us on Patreon, on YouTube, Twitch TV, and our 2 Facebook pages. Special thanks to you, as always. Till next time.